This is Festival Sounds. I'm Tilly.
And I'm Bilal.
And today, who are we talking to, Bill? Tell us everything.
We've got the man behind Glastopedia. So Glastopedia.com is this incredible resource where you can do map overlays of different festivals at Glastonbury from one year to the next. You can get more information about performers, venues, campsites. The guy behind it, a lovely, lovely man called Ben. He's joining us this week.
He is the man with the most Glastonbury knowledge possibly ever.
Whoa. Glasto Thingy's going to be getting
Sorry,
in touch.
Glasto Thingy. Sir Glasto Thingy, I do apologise. But he's giving you a run for your money. I would love to see a head-to-head. So we are joined by Ben from Glastopedia. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm super excited about this.
We're very, very glad to have you. I mean, I've been going through your website multiple times, but today I've been doing a deep dive and I literally love it so much.
See, that's the reason I do it. It's just, started as a little project of mine just for me, but hearing people that they love it as much as I do, it's awesome.
It is incredible. I was doing some of the quizzes today because I didn't even know there was quizzes on your site until I did this deep dive. And I was doing all these quizzes and doing so badly, by the way. I did not do very well on them, but they were amazing.
Yeah, that was kind of just like a throwaway thing that I did at one point. If you had got 100% on any of them, you would have got the surprise at the end. I haven't heard of anybody getting 100% yet, but yeah, you'll have to keep trying.
I'm going to have to start writing down the answers so that I can get this 100%.
There you go, yeah.
For our listeners, can you explain what Glastopedia is?
So Glastopedia is a little pet project of mine that started back in 2019 when I went to my first Glastonbury. So I know that the Glasto Thingy, Sir Glasto Thingy, said that he was a newcomer. If he's a newcomer, I'm a newborn. I became very obsessed with the festival very early on. And it was less about who was playing. I wanted to know the history of it to like the stupidest detail. So I just started finding information and posting it on this little website, and it's since grown into the resource that it is, which still is missing thousands of performers and all that kind of stuff. But it's my little corner of the internet, my homage to Glastonbury, and that's my website.
It's so amazing.
And what can people find on there?
Well, it's split up into 6 main areas as kind of like content. So it has the festivals themselves going back to, the first one, 1970. And then everything else is split into venues, which covers all the areas, all the stages, even stuff like the Glastonbury sign, so on and so forth. Performers, which is the biggest section and also the most lacking currently, just because it's such an effort to get that information in there, especially with all the performances. And then campsites, which covers sort of how things have evolved over time in terms of where things have moved. And then crew, with all the people behind the festival. And then the markets, which takes into account all the stalls, which is probably has the least amount of information. Because, they just, since the dawn of time, they haven't let anyone know who's at the markets until last year when they released everything on the app. So,
I mean, already you've said, it's lacking so much, but just from that list alone, I'm blown away by just how much it's got.
Yeah, and I think that's touching the tip of the iceberg as well. I've added a new history section, which sort of goes into detail of the decades. There's spotlights, which are kind of it's like the blog type section, which then has stuff about late night alternatives and all the crew bars and stuff like that. But yeah, it's, as I said, it's a project that'll never be finished, and I'm kind of okay with that.
When the map comes out, the new map for each festival, I would create a GIF for my friends, and the GIF would move from the last year's map to this year's map, and it gives you that chance to compare what has changed.
Right.
And someone said to me, why are you doing this? Just go to Glastopedia. And I was like, what's Glastopedia? And I went on, and under festivals, you can scroll down and you can get to maps. And I'm doing it right now.
There you go.
And what happens is you can click any map from any year going all the way back to 1971. And then you can just slide across to see what the changes are, the side-by-side comparison or an overlaid comparison.
Right.
It blew my mind. And at that point, I said, I've got to get this person onto the podcast.
Well, I can, thank that was a shower thought. Most of the stuff on the site actually has been that kind of thing where I've just gone, this is something I'd really like for myself. I can't imagine that anyone else will give a shit, but and then they're the things that people love the most. I think there was another one which was the satellite photo. I don't know if you've seen that section.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. Someone got a huge satellite photo from 2023. And so I figured, why not take that and then map where stages are, where market stalls are, where everything is. So you can go in there and zoom in and you can hover over stuff and you can be like, that's where, the theater and circus fields are. And that's where gate C is. Like, no one cares about that, apparently. And then all of a sudden people are just like, you're insane. And this is awesome. So yeah, stuff like that has been great. And then going even further still, like I've since become obsessed with collecting the programs. So I now have, I think, 32 of the 37. Going back, I've got one of the 1979 programs, like physical things. And so I've decided to digitize those, which sounds kind of simple, but it turns out that across them all, there's about 3,100 pages. So that's a lot of scanning.
That is a lot of scanning.
and then further still, I'm just like, once I've scanned those in, each page obviously relates to different things at the festival. I'll link those parts of the page to those parts of the site. So I've just made myself this mountain of work. Every time
you're set for the next 20 years, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if only I got paid for this thing. Maybe that'd be fine. But so little stuff like that, which turns into huge stuff. But yeah.
You say that, nobody would want this or no one would necessarily be interested in it. But then there's a lot of hype and expectation, especially if it's your first Glastonbury, and you just want to understand what you're getting into.
Right.
Or, if you say, okay, where is Gate C? Someone might want to understand, where that is in respect to different campsites and where they might park. The maps don't always do it justice.
Right.
But what you've done is almost bring it to life and link it to everything else that's going on. It's incredible. It really is.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a ride, and there's probably more things that I need to fix or that I want to do better. But that'll come in time. But yeah, I think you're right with stuff like the maps. The maps is the big thing for me because I want to be able to have a sort of resource where you can go and you can just see how this thing has evolved over time, because it's kind of mind-blowing that they create this little town out of nothing for a weekend, and then it kind of disappears. And yeah, just the history of it, how everything came to be, and sort of how people have moved through the festival, like finding out information about, when people who design posters now, where they started at the festival. It's that kind of stuff makes me super excited. For some weird reason, every time I find a new nugget of information that I can put on the site, I've always get a little bit of a buzz. But yeah, it's just nice being able to go on there and go, okay, I'm going to go check out what the lineup was like at a certain year, and then you kind of just you're in the deep end there, and then you can start looking at everything. I keep doing it so that it's something that I enjoy going and looking at. It's never felt like a job or anything like that. It's always something exciting. So yeah, and I hope it continues that way, because, as I said, there's so much more information to put on.
Yeah, and just from the sound of it, I mean, you've got such a wealth of information already, but do you see this ever kind of ending? Do you always think you'll just keep going with Glastopedia?
I think I'll keep going with it as long as the festival keeps going. I've been lucky enough to get tickets since 2019 until this year with the dreaded new queue. I don't have tickets yet, but fingers crossed for the resale. But even then, it's like even if I don't get tickets, it's not like I'm going to go, I don't want to do this thing anymore. I still love doing it. I still want to find out as much information as I can about the festival. And I love that people are into it. So, yeah, there will come a point, when Glastonbury, God forbid, isn't a thing anymore. And then that means that, there's a finite amount of information that can be found. But I think, yeah, with all the performers and the fact that, you can only go back on the web archive so many years, I think back to 2000 or 99 to get information that way. Everything else I get emails from people who worked in like the green fields in the 80s. And yeah, I think it's always going to be a little project of mine that's kind of just bubbling there in the background.
What was it about Glastonbury 2019 that you loved so much? How did that spark this whole thing?
Well, I only moved to the UK in 2017. It's actually, surprisingly enough, my anniversary today.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, it's also 100 days until Glastonbury, St. Paddy's Day, and it's my niece's birthday. So happy birthday. Happy birthday, Gwen. Yeah, so I moved here in 2017, which meant that Glastonbury wasn't on my radar at that point. I was too busy being freaked out about moving to another country. So it wasn't until my friends were like, you have to do this. They knew I was a big music fan and I like festivals and live music. So yeah, we tried really hard. I ended up getting the tickets, which as a first experience, like I didn't know what the hell was going on. It was the most insanely stressful thing I've ever done.
I don't think my heart has beat as hard as when you get through the ticket to the bit where you can input your registration numbers. I
didn't even know what I was doing. Like having to buy, because we did coach, so I was trying to find like I'm London. What am I pressing all these things? But thankfully it worked. So yeah, 2019 was the first year, and as much as I'd done research on the festival, because it was after I got the tickets that I became obsessed. Nothing prepares you for your first time when you walk into this place and you just like, this is insane. There's so many places to go. Everyone there is vibing it exactly the way that you are. I don't think I've ever had a bad experience with anybody. And you can just go off on your own. I went with friends and they wanted to do their own thing. So I was just like, I'll go exploring. And my God, it was, very eye-opening. And that just solidified the obsession. And I just can't wait to go back every year. Fingers crossed this year. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. 2019 was my first year as well. So
was it?
We have that in common. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. It was a hell of a lineup too.
It was. And then you were hit by COVID the next year. So it kind of the anticipation kept growing because you were like, well, we physically can't go this year.
Yeah, that was tough. But I think, that gave me some time to like work on the website a bit as well. So that was kind of nice. But yeah, I think...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You went to your first festival. Did you then immediately create Glastopedia?
Oh, I created it like a couple of months before I went.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you were
yeah.
like doing some research.
I was doing some research. As I said, I just became obsessed with the lore of the place. Like it was, and I just wanted to know the stupidest details, like what a stage had evolved into over time. So, you know, obviously you've got the pyramid stage. That's been a thing, you know, but it's gone through however many iterations. It burnt down. I started finding all this information. But then, you know, where Arcadia's moved to over the years, it's been in a couple of different fields. You know, you've got places now like Shangri-La, which back in the days was, you know, Las Vegas. It's just wild to think that this festival, which kind of started in a couple of fields, expanded out to, you know, the Travelers doing something. And something that the Travelers did is now a core section of the festival. Like the southeast corner is iconic.
Have you seen the documentary on Las Vegas on Netflix?
Oh, man, Roy Gervitz. I want to meet that man, but also I'm terrified of him. But
I should ask him on the pod.
There you go.
I never thought. Well, actually, I think it's because I was probably intimidated by his presence. I didn't even think to ask.
Yeah.
What a formidable person.
And I think, I don't know how he'd feel about the festival now, whether he'd want to talk about it, you know.
But that documentary,
it's pretty wild, isn't it?
The journey he went on.
Yeah.
It really shows what people put into the festival. It gets under everybody's skin.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've don't think I've seen anything like definitely not with any other festivals. You've got big festivals all over the world and in the UK, and I've never experienced anything like it. It's insane.
Have you only ever been to the festival as a ticket holder? Like, have you ever been in any other role? Have you ever done volunteering or paid work or anything?
No, I've only ever been as a punter. So yeah, I considered, obviously after failing miserably to get tickets this year, all the avenues. But yeah, I'm just kind of putting it like I just want to be able to go, and I'd love to volunteer at some point. But yeah, I just love being able to go there and just throw myself into it. Not have to worry about, I got to do a shift tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. But I'd much rather stay in the southeast corner until the birds come out. So yeah.
We started a shift at about 6 a.m. Thursday morning. One of the lads came up to us, pint still in hand, maybe an hour before the shift was supposed to start, and said, I'm really sorry, I'm supposed to be on shift in an hour, but the night just got away from me. He's saying this at 5 a.m.
Oh my God.
We're like, it's
the
morning.
First day. Yeah. And he's still got a pint in his hand. And I was like, go get your stuff from the campsite, come back, we'll figure it out. And we just helped him sober up with some coffees. And then he just had to work the bits of the shift he missed at the start. He just added some time on the end. So, you figure it out.
Right.
But there was someone who went for the first time, got swept away with it within hours. And yeah, getting yourself to your shift, it's a real dilemma as to whether you can. It's not a dilemma.
It can feel like a big sacrifice. You feel like you're sacrificing your free time to get there. But it is very worth it from a different perspective. Like, you meet lots of people. I think I talk to more people when I'm volunteering than I do when I go as a punter to festivals. Right. Part of it's because that is what you're there to do, but it's just people are really, really friendly to someone in high vis, I've found.
Yeah, of course. Props to the stewards. Yeah, everyone's always super nice, and that's just going back to that fact that you can, the amount of times that I've just walked away from my friend group because they're going to go see something I really don't want to see, and have just been accepted by, a group of 20 people from God knows where. And it's just, I've once again, never experienced anything quite like it to that extent. Because I think everyone's they've got the same mindset. Everyone's just there to have a good time. No one's aggy. It's just, it's a big Glastonbury family.
So don't rule out volunteering, because on that Wednesday, If you're in your high vis on shift and the alternative is not being there,
right,
you'll say to yourself, I'm glad I did this.
Yeah. And we've said it a couple of times before, but being able to get there on the Monday and see the festival when it's still being set up is really magical as well.
I bet.
And you'll have more content for bars because you'll know all the crew bars.
Yeah, that is interesting. How do you get all your information on the crew part of it if you've not done that side of it?
Talking to people who do work in those places, or just scouring the internet, like the amount of information that's on, eFest from back in the day, Oof Discord. I know you guys have talked about them before. I'm a bit of a lurker there, but do post quite a bit. Yeah, you just talk to people that have been going to the festival since day dot, and they will correct you on the tiniest things. Believe you me, it's crazy the kind of information you can find if you just kind of know where to look. My big resource is the web archive, which kind of lets you put in the glastonburyfestivals.co.uk and it'll transport you back to the 2000s, and you can find lineups and the stupidest little bits of information that, once again, I thought only I cared about, but apparently not. And you just talk to people that have done it, and you will find them, and they will not hesitate to tell you about things because they just love talking about it.
It's clear that a huge amount of research has gone into it. There's no way you can pull this together without that. What's your favourite part of the website?
That is a good question. I think at the moment, because I'm kind of going through the process of scanning all these programs, and once again, that's another area of finding information that you just wouldn't find anywhere else, because, it's this physical thing that there's only so many copies of, and it's not on the internet. I think the program section currently is my favorite. It's once again still needs a lot of work, but I've slowly been scanning in each of the programs that I've got, and as I do that, you find the silly ads that they had in the programs back in the day, and just all the photo captions are hilarious from like the 90s. I think at the moment that and the map stuff, the interactive maps, which is kind of, taking everything that I found and trying to plot it on a map so that you can just go in there and go, 1970 whatever. I can go in there and I can see, that's where that stage was, and that's where this store was. Those two I'd say would be my favorite bits.
Obviously, I mean, clearly the scale of Glastonbury is something that you really are interested in.
Yeah.
Have you been to other festivals that you think compare to Glastonbury? Like, what's your experience in other kind of festivals? Have you been to other UK festivals? Have you been to festivals in Australia?
Australia doesn't even come close. I feel like half the festivals that they used to do back there are cancelled now anyway. Ever since COVID, they've all kind of shut down. But in terms of UK festivals, I've done Boomtown, which is another one I'm super interested in. I've only ever been once, but they've got this whole story arc going through it, which is really, really interesting. But and then I've been to Reading, which I've no comment.
Yeah, we've all been there.
I walked into Reading, and my first experience was, teenagers throwing bottles of piss across a campsite, and I was just like, okay, this not for me. But yeah, so I was lucky enough to,
So there's no Readingpedia.
Not yet, but they've been around for a million years. So, like, you'd think that, and that's another thing that I kind of it makes Glastonbury exciting to me, is that they've just stayed true to their kind of roots. I know, as cheesy as that sounds, they don't have major sponsors and all this kind of stuff. It's this weird, and it's also like their website. I know they just updated it kind of updated. It's still a bit shit, but there's something about Glastonbury and their posters and stuff, which is, you go, that's nice try, guys. Like, they're still stuck in the early 2000s, which is really endearing to me.
You can't quite see it. In fact, let me just take it off the wall. But the only Glastonbury poster I own is this one. And surprise, surprise, it's a mashup from La Linterna, the Colombian poster company. Because, put that down before my arm comes off. But the regular poster it's okay. It's fine.
It's iconic, but it's not necessarily something you'd put on your wall.
But that I fell in love with the moment I saw it, because it's a mashup with all the different Colombian and Glastonbury styles.
Yeah.
And so I get what you mean. It took something like that for me to, and we have a podcast about festivals. I clearly love festivals, but it took that for me to actually buy a poster.
Right. Yeah. It's, I kind of love the posters. I love the full lineup posters more. I don't know if you know those ones. So you get the Stanley Donwood one, which is the one that we just got, the first announcement. He's been doing them since 2003, I think. And then you get the ones that come after once everything's been announced. And they're by a guy named Alistair, who's been working at the festival since the 80s, I think, early 80s. And he actually sent me an email once being like, I saw that I've got an entry on your website, and gave me all this information about he's been designing tickets and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I love those Stanley Donwood posters. You know the one he did with the lightning bolts coming out of it, the wavy thing? You know which one I mean. I'm making hand gestures, even though we're audio only. But some of them are phenomenal.
They are. He's great. He actually just did a interview with Wallpaper magazine, and a little website got mentioned by the interviewer, not by Stanley, unfortunately. But they said according to Glastopedia, which I hope is a sentence that appears on more websites. So I got
or if it appears on festivalsounds.co.uk.
Festivalsounds.co.uk.
Yeah.
But it will do, and
there we go.
there's a mission if it doesn't. But regularly in chats, I've said to people, go check Glastopedia. You know, there's two points of reference I send people to. One of them is a Glasto thingy.
Of course.
Stat. And then if someone says, how do I get to know more about Glasto? I'm like, well, Glastopedia. It's almost like you should know already.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a default option. In fact, I say that before the Glastonbury Festival's own website.
Yeah.
Well, good. Thank you. Because send me the traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's incredible. Oh, and then the other thing, it's clearly just a passion project, because there isn't adverts all over it. There's not like a banner down the side saying buy some, wellies or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been my thing from the start. And it never will have ads. Monetization was never a thing. Once again, this was a project for me to start with, and the fact that people are into it, and it does get some serious traffic, sometimes in the middle of the year more than the rest. But it's awesome, and it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get bigger, which means that I'll probably have to fix some things so that it doesn't crash as much as it does.
It's beautiful.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You can have website. Oh, you're welcome. How have you made it so good looking?
Hire me, please hire me. No, it's all me. I've done this all myself. So I come from a design background and taught myself how to build websites. And this has been a really great thing for me, not just because I love Glastonbury and I love finding out information, but it also allows me to get better at the things that I want to do, which is design and and web development. So yeah, and God, if I'm glad I don't record how much time I spend on things, but even stuff like the little icons for the sections, like those round little icons, the amount of time that I've spent on those, just getting them exactly right. But yeah, everything is just, I don't know. I love doing it. And having that much information to work with, and then coming up with silly ideas that, people might mention, here's a satellite image that you might be able to plot all these things onto. All of a sudden, that's a new challenge for me, and I can sort of run with that, and I'll butt my head against the wall with it for the longest time. But then all of a sudden, I've got this working thing, and then I share it, and all these people just go, "Holy shit! Okay, like that's what the hell? That's crazy," which is really nice.
I like to picture that the website is what the inside of your brain looks like very nicely laid out, but lots of information there.
Yeah, well, you would be very incorrect. Lots of information in there, but not nicely laid out. Yeah, it's not a very good reflection of my brain at any given time. But yeah, I love it. And God, the amount of times that I look at parts of it and I'm like, oh, I really wish I hadn't have done that, and whatever. The amount of times that I've just gone, I probably should redesign this entire thing. But yeah, it is what it is, and it will evolve over time, just like the festival does. There's a cheesy sentence for you. But yeah, it's my little baby.
With all of your unlimited access to all of the different lineups from multiple years, what would be your best year's lineup if you had to pick?
Oh God, that's a good question. The funny thing is, and I probably mentioned it before, is that the performance section is probably the most lucky at the moment. So there's some years that you go and look at and you're like, oh, 4 people played. That doesn't seem right. But I think, yeah, for me, 2019 was pretty epic, just because, obviously it was my first festival, and then you had somebody like Stormzy, that was the first Pyramid headliner that I got to see, and that was just even if he had to come on stage and farted in the microphone, that production value was one of the most insane things I think I've ever seen.
I'd love to get Stormzy's PR company being so here's what we think you should do. Come on stage, find the microphone, and then leave. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have your ultimate headliners, Alive or Dead, that type of thing?
I mean, Paul McCartney was one of my favourite ones. Just being there was really good.
I was quite drunk during that, and I remember I was there with my mate, and we were just like, if he doesn't play a Beatles song in the next 5 minutes, we're just gonna leave. And then he came out, and then Bruce Springsteen comes out and Dave Grohl comes out, and we're like, I'm glad we stayed.
So if I can be a bit soft, 2019 was the first time I watched a Pyramid headliner with Tilly, and we watched The Cure on the Sunday, and it brought our festival to an end. And
that's lovely.
It was really lovely because I had no idea who Tilly was. Really.
We were strangers at the beginning of the weekend, and then by the end we were watching The Cure together.
Yeah, right. And so you guys just met randomly?
Yeah, we didn't know each other,
camped
next to each other in the Oxfam field. And Beautiful. Then we didn't even really have shifts at the same time. Actually, to be honest, when we think about it, our shifts were at really awkward times. And so really the only time we actually got to spend with each other was before the festival started on the Monday, Tuesday. And then on that, when we were watching The Cure on Sunday night, pretty much.
2019 will always be a special festival for me.
Yeah. And I think I've been lucky as well, obviously, because the weather since 2019 has been incredible. And so I'm doing research and just finding out about all these festivals that were mud pits and people in canoes going across the campsite. I was like, that never happened.
Yeah, what loses rain? What is rain?
Yeah.
I've never seen mud at Glastonbury. I don't know what people are talking about. I feel like they made it up.
I know. I remember waking up one morning to rain on my tent, and I was like, excuse me? What is this weird sound? But yeah, that's probably another section of the website that I'm strangely obsessed with is the weather section.
Can I rave about it? Can I? Honestly, the weather section is
Ridiculous.
phenomenal because the high temperatures, the low temperatures, and the trend over the years, it's so cool because you just want to know.
Yeah, the charts and stuff like that. That's one thing that I'd like to sort of build on a bit. But yeah, you can see it in other sections like area capacities and stuff like that. There's a graph in there. I love a graph.
If you start to link like the temperature when the headliners were on, then we know it's getting serious.
One of the things that caught me off guard was I felt like the last festival, 2024, was quite cold at night.
Right.
And you just think it's in your head. And I went on to Glastopedia and I looked. Actually, it was the coldest festival for nighttime temperatures going back to 2013.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And just stuff like that. It's just a stat
You're
that
welcome.
you want to know the answer to, and it's
Welcome.
there.
What can I say? Yeah.
Yeah, it's something you only really find interesting. What I think once I've been, like, if somebody who have never been to Glastonbury and I was like, oh, I'm looking at the weather from 2017 Glastonbury, they're going to be like, what are you doing? But it's other people who like Glastonbury care.
Yeah, exactly. And you find out the amount of people that love Glastonbury. Just God, the amount of people that I've now friends with that are just like, I can't believe that you were the one that did this site. I had somebody come up to me because there was a section of the site, because they released all the stalls, all the market stalls, all the food stalls last year. I went through the process of sort of downloading everything off the app so I could plot it on the website. And in doing so, with help from White Lighted, from Oof Discord, shout out, put together sort of gluten-free, because in the app they said, vegetarian friendly. And that was pretty much it. Or it said vegetarian/vegan, which is not helpful at all.
Not the same thing.
Not the same thing. So yeah, ended up with sort of a spreadsheet of on Glastopedia that you could go to, and you could, filter it by area. You could filter it by cuisine, by actual gluten-free stuff, that type of thing. So yeah, in doing that, it was the amount of people that at the festival, like at the festival, that would be like, oh, I found this thing that was like, I could see where food is. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know who made that. that was me.
That's so cool.
That was me.
Do you get many? Obviously, you mentioned you get a few people like sending emails and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of that? Is that like your most common way to receive information?
No, every so often I'll get an email from someone super excited because someone sent one recently where they were like, we got asked to come and create a stage one year. I can't remember what stage it was, but they were only there for 1 year, and he said that he'd searched for the name on Google and Glastopedia had come up, which happens a lot because a lot of these things are mentioned on a website from the 90s that you can't actually access publicly. And yeah, they'll just be super excited that someone's even gone to the trouble of putting that in there and who played on that stage. And people have sent me through, like people that have done that kind of thing where they've set up a stage, they'll send through the full lineup for that. And then it's like, that's the only place on the internet where you'll find that lineup.
I can imagine for them, that must feel so nice to be recognised by, I don't know, like it was like 1 year in the 90s and then somebody on the internet has gone, oh, here's recognition of your project.
Exactly. And that was the plan all along. And it just kind of took on a mind of its own and has gone wildly out of control. But that core idea is still there, that I just want to be able to share all this information with whoever wants to read it. And it turns out that's a lot of people, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely one of them. I love reading it. As I said, the quizzes are amazing. I really fell down the rabbit hole today of looking at all the old festival wristbands, like pictures of the festival wristbands, and that was really cool.
That section, the sort of the festival section that then is split out into all the artwork, all the posters. That's another favorite section of mine is the venues posters section, which sort of splits it up by year. So you can go back in time and just go, everyone has pretty interesting posters. I'm trying to be nice now. And then, it just being able to find all that stuff. Every time I find something new, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's honestly, I can't believe how much work this must be, and it's just you doing it. It's literally incredible.
Well, yeah, thank you. You could say it's incredible. Or it's insane. I
mean, I
think.
didn't want to say it, but
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I have to give a massive shout out to my partner though, because there was a point. Hi, Maz, I love you. She kind of came on the scene and was like, I was probably at a point where I'm like, do I want to keep doing this? Is there really a point to this? And she was obsessed with it. So she's kind of been the person that has championed me the most with it. So yeah. And that allows me to also spend way too much time on it, because I can be like, hey, this is your fault. You told me I should keep doing it.
Do you want to play Festival Dickhead?
Absolutely.
So we've had a message from Hugh Janus. Why are you making that face, Tilly?
Just thinking about poor Mr. Janus.
Hugh has a friend who last year saw Alexa Chung and went over to just express how amazing she was and her sense of fashion, and was apparently just fawning over her and saying all these things to the point that it got a bit awkward.
Right.
Hugh would like to know, if you see a celebrity in the crowd at a festival, are you a dickhead if you go over to that celebrity and say how much you love them and the things that they do?
That is a great question. I imagine it depends on how much you've had to drink.
I agree with that.
How many ciders down you are at this point?
Okay, so less ciders than the person who played guitar at Dua Lipa. If he had any ciders at all.
God.
I think he was just vibing on life. I really hate to say it, but I'm sure he was stone cold sober and thought, this is the best idea I've ever had.
This is a different situation, because we're not talking about performing at a celebrity, which is what happened there, and which I still cringe over. This is just showing your appreciation. In a non-musical way. Right.
I think, if you can judge it based on whether it would become a meme or not, that would also be a good one. Because the amount of times that you will see a celebrity, you'll go up to them with the intention of being the coolest person that's ever gone up to chat with them, and it never goes that way. So I think it's a bit of a dickhead move. They're just there to have a good time. They're there just to enjoy it, just like you are. So I think they should be able to. But then that's it.
I think it depends on how hard they're trying to camouflage themselves. Like
True.
if they're full incognito, like they're wearing a full-on morph suit, like the backwards cap, they are hidden. I think they don't want to be approached. But imagine it's like Elton John walking around, but he's like dressed in his like full-on stage outfit.
Yeah.
You can imagine he wouldn't mind being approached in that situation.
Oh, but
so you're saying there's a performing persona, and there's the leave me the fuck alone, I'm just minding my own business persona.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I also think, weirdly, it becomes less weird to say how much you love them if you are like a volunteer or a steward. Because imagine you've like scanned their ticket, or you're getting them through the gate and you go, oh, by the way, I love you. I just think that's less weird.
Tilly is taking this very close to home.
No, I was so close to doing this. I think it was Isle of Wight, where me and you, Bill, we saw Toby Jones walking around, and I wanted to run up to him and say, oh my God, I love you, Dobby. But I didn't say that.
Oh, God.
Because I held myself back.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been a festival dickhead move.
Yeah, I do think so too. So I'm glad I didn't.
So context is key here. So we're saying that a punter has to read the body language. Is that what you two are saying?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And if that body language is ambiguous,
You could do like a drive-by. Love you, and then leave.
Yeah.
Love and leave them.
Yeah. Like they don't have to respond. They can say thanks. They can not say anything. But you've just let them know how much you appreciate them. Not via song. You never do it via song.
Not by song. And don't make them stand there and be filmed. Because that's horrible.
Yeah.
what if the person is smiling but sat down on a bench eating some paella?
Never approach someone when they're eating.
No.
Never.
Not even non-celebrities. Just
You don't want to face the hangry wrath. That's too much.
Ben is saying to us that if we see him, but he's sat down and eating, just leave him the fuck alone.
Unless Ben's going up to ask them a question about exactly what paella stand they got.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the history of the paella, and then maybe you can go.
Yeah, and I'll be walking up to other people being like, did you know that this stand was actually 10 meters that way last year?
And this person's like, I'm literally famous. And you're like, I just needed to tell you that. Bye.
Yeah, I just had to tell somebody. Yeah.
Okay, let me throw another situation at you. And the reason I said smiling, because clearly they're in a happy place. What if they're stone-faced, just walking between two stages?
Leave them to it.
Yeah. And doesn't it come down to like who the celebrity is as well?
I also think like
Is
if
there
they
a
were
scale?
walking,
There must
between
be.
stage and they're on their own, like you're going to freak them out if you are going, oh my God, I love you, and then just leave.
Yeah.
But like,
If it's a female celebrity and you're a guy.
Yeah.
Like,
but even a
just
male,
leave
like
them alone.
I think they would probably think I'm like following them or something, so that I would just not, do that.
Yeah, I see that as well. But you do see, I think it was Chapel Roan, wasn't it, who said, don't trauma dump on me. So,
Oh, wow.
So there's also, I'm guessing, a line where going over and saying, I love your music is one thing. And going over and saying, you helped me break up with my boyfriend. Thank you so much. But now I've been single for 5 years.
You helped me through a really tough time. Here's everything that happened during those 5 years. And you're like, oh no. Oh,
I think,
no.
yeah, there's a context for what are you bringing to the situation as well as the situation the celebrity finds himself in. Or I'm asking your opinion for this.
Are we any closer to working out whether...
Bill, you've just made you've made it harder to decide.
Yeah, no, I want to know. I'm independently. I'm impartial here.
I think there's too many... going back to something that's very much like, yes, you're a dickhead. I think you talked about in the last podcast that someone filming for too long in a crowd, like that, you can immediately say, yes, that's annoying. But like the task of going up to someone who you admire and potentially just being like, hi, sorry to interrupt. I just really wanted to let you know how much I appreciate you. And now I'm going to fuck off back over here. Like that, I don't think that's dickheadish. But if you go over and you're like, oh, I'm going to stand here and, talk at you for the next 5 minutes, I think, yeah, there's definitely a line.
I agree with that.
I agree.
I think if you go over and very quickly show some love and affection, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's not a dickhead.
Maybe the line is if you actually try and have a conversation with them. If you're just like saying, oh, thank you so much, your work's amazing, and then leave, feel like acceptable. If you want them to respond back and have a conversation with you, then like that's too much pressure on them. So
Yeah.
I would call that festival dickhead.
I have to confess, I did that with a hot chip lead singer in the Crow's Nest, where I went up and I said, you showing up here was such a surprise. You've made my day. Thank you very much. And then I didn't say anything else and ran off. And he might have turned around and said, hey, are you the guy from Festival Sounds? I just want to tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
I sing you a song? But I was out of there. I left him to it.
Long gone.
Maybe he wasn't respecting my space. I don't know. I left before that could happen.
I think that's totally fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think there's the line.
Yeah.
I think we found the line, which is a short, snappy, positive comment.
Yeah. If it can fit in a tweet, you golden.
Okay. And if they are running away from you, then leave them alone.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we've agreed.
And this was probably the one we've all agreed the most, actually.
Yeah.
Good job.
And we've agreed you're not a dickhead. That's unusual for us.
That is. We're not usually this nice to people.
That's great. Well, someone did say that I was a nice guy at some point. So that, yeah.
Thank you for listening. Give us a follow on Apple or Spotify. That way you know whenever we're releasing an episode.
Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed it, and see you next time.
Do you ever listen to the episodes back? Like when you flew to Spain, do you listen to festival sounds on the plane?
Funny story, actually. I was meaning to be listening to the Game of Thrones audiobook, had it downloaded. I'm chilling. I'm lying back on the plane, having a great time on my EasyJet flight. And suddenly, the Game of Thrones audiobook cuts out, and it's literally you screaming at me from the Festival Sounds podcast.
Oh, God. I can't think of anything worse.
Yeah, I think it was mid-festival dickhead or something. And you were like, you were honestly, I've never had such a shock in my life.